The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice.
Weekly Forecast.
Hey guys, this is a weekly forecast for September 6th through the 10th of 2021. Okay, so this week I'm going to review all the setups we've been looking at for the pairs we've been analyzing, just for a sense of organization. So for a more in-depth analysis of each pair, please refer to previous forecasts. Alright, so let's start with the pound dollar. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since this horizontal trend line right here just became legitimate, that's attached to this pivot right here, and since price has a tendency to test strong levels, in the long term I am long biased right back up to this horizontal trend line right here. However, on the weekly chart, since there's more short strength than long strength, in the short term I am short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is the weekly chart. Let me run you by the setup I've been looking at for the past couple of months. So there was a strong short trade that formed right here. Then a week-long trade formed. So as price pulled back, I was looking for short trades on the lower time frames right back down to this pivot low as a target. And that target was hit right here. And moreover, as price pulled back, I was still looking for short entries. However, if you recall at this point right here, there was compact long price action that formed that shows strong long strength. So at this point, the bias changed to long, or in other words, price was now likely to reach this pivot high up here before reaching this pivot low. And that main target was hit right here. And then following that, there was a strong short trade that formed right here. And then a week long trade formed here. So again, as price pulled back, I was looking for short entries right back down to this pivot low as a target. And that target was hit right here. And then moreover, another week long trade formed here. So at this point, the weekly bias is short. Or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low right here before reaching this pivot high. Okay, so let's go over the entries I'm looking at. Alright, so again, the weekly bias is short. Or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low right here before reaching this pivot high. So as a basic entry, if price pulls back to this 1.41 levels right here, minimizing my risk for a short trade for my main stop loss is at this pivot high right here, then I'll be willing to take a short entry, again with the stop loss at this pivot high right here, and its main target being right back down here at the last weekly long trades pivot low. Okay, and another entry setup I'm looking for is on the daily chart. If there's a long trade that forms, then a short trade that forms, and if this short trade is stronger than this last daily long trade, then I'll be willing to take a short entry, or it's along with this weekly bias short with the stop loss at that hypothetical daily short trades pivot high, and the main target be at the daily long trades pivot low right here, and extending a portion to that weekly bias's main target right back down here. Now moreover, for the time being, the only way I will take a long entry is if any compact long price action forms on the lower time frames which show strong long strength, in which case that will change this weekly bias from short into long, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot high right here before reaching this hypothetical compact long price actions pivot low. Okay, so let's go on to the euro dollar. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since this price action right here is very strong short and this move still having a ways to go, in the long term I'm short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. However, because of a breakout of this prominent trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here, and that breakout being right here, in the medium term I'm long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. And more on the weekly chart, since that weekly bias's target was hit at this pivot low right here about 2 weeks ago, in the short term I'm neutral biased. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is the weekly chart. Let me run you by the setup I've been looking at for the past couple of months. So there was a strong short trade that formed right here, then a week long trade formed here. So as price pulled back, I was looking for short entries right back down to this pivot low as a target. And the same thing happened, another week long trade formed. So as price pulled back, I was looking for short entries again, right back down to this pivot low right here. Then again, another week long trade formed right here. So at this point, the bias was short, or in other words, price was likely to reach this pivot low before reaching this pivot high. So as price pulled back, yet again, I was looking for short entries. And then moreover, at this point right here, another strong short trade formed. So at this point, the weekly bias now stated that price is likely to reach this pivot low right here before reaching this pivot high. And then over the following weeks, price came down. And about 2 weeks ago, that weekly bias's main target was hit at this pivot low right here. Alright, so since this weekly bias's main target was hit, making the weekly bias neutral, at this point, I'm waiting for a weekly or daily new bias to form. So again, I'll be waiting for a weekly or daily long trade to form and another weekly or daily short trade to form. And if this short trade is stronger than the long trade, then again, I'll be looking for short entries with a stop loss at this hypothetical short trade's pivot high and its main target at the hypothetical long trade's pivot low. Now keep in mind, since this weekly bias's target was hit, I'll be looking for these new biases on the weekly and the daily charts. Okay, moreover, I still have 2 positions in this short trade. So let me explain the trade management for those 2 existing short positions. Okay, so if you recall, I took a short trade at 1.2250 right here and another one at 1.2130 at this level right here, with both stop losses at this pivot high and its main target being right here at this pivot low. Now, if you recall, I took out 90% of both positions at this level right here and leaving 10% of both positions to see if it could get past this main target to lower levels. Okay, so some price levels I'm looking at for those 2 short positions are on the monthly chart. So let's go over there. Okay, so on this monthly chart, the first thing I'm looking for is for monthly price to close under this monthly gap level right here. Now the upper level of this monthly gap right here is roughly at 1.1791. And the lower end right here is roughly at 1.1672. Okay, so the first thing I'm looking for is for monthly price to close below these levels right here. Okay, and moreover, a possible price level, I'll be taking out another 5% of both those positions at this trend line right here, from this pivot to this pivot right here. Okay, so seeing that this trend line is very prominent with a breakout right here, if price could close beyond this gap level and fall down to this trend line retest level, at this point I'm willing to take out another 5% of both those positions. Okay, and if you're having trouble understanding what I'm talking about in terms of weekly biases and legitimate trend lines, please watch my price action trading course. For that course is designed to provide you the necessary information so you can understand these forecasts and analysis. Okay, let's go on to the dollar yen. Okay, this is a monthly chart, and we'll start off with an overview. Alright, so ultimately I'm expecting price to reach this 101 pivot low right here. But before that, we were talking about the pullback to 104, then to 109, and then down to this 101 pivot low. So in the long term, I'm still short bias, back down to this pivot low as a target. And moreover, on the weekly chart, since there's more short strength than long strength, in the short term, I'm short biased, right back down to this pivot low right here. Right, let's talk entries. Alright, this is a weekly chart. Let me run you by the setup I've been looking at for the past couple of months. So the last long trade that formed was right here, with this stop loss at this pivot low right here. So as price came up to these 109 levels right here, I was looking for long entries on the lower time frames. However, at this 109 level right here, due to this last long trade possibly hitting this main target, the weekly bias was neutral. However, on the lower time frame, there were no signs of waning long momentum right in this area right here. So price pushed up a little bit higher and came right back to these 107 levels. Now at this point right here, there was a strong daily long trade that formed, and moreover there were consecutive week short trades that formed on the daily charts in these areas, which is a common price action setup which shows strong short-term long strength. And so price reached these 111.50 levels right here, and then roughly 2 months ago there was a strong short trade that formed right here, and then a week long trade formed right here. So the new weekly bias stated that price is likely to reach this pivot low right here before reaching this pivot high. So the current weekly bias is short for the time being. Alright, so let me just remind you, I'm planning to enter this short trade. Okay, so again, the weekly bias is short with this main target at this pivot low right here and stop loss level at this pivot high. At this point, if price gives a nice pullback to this 110.80 levels right here, minimizing my risk for a short trade with a stop loss at this pivot high right here, at that point I'm willing to take a short entry, again with a stop loss at this pivot high and its main target being right back down here. However, recall I'm always looking for any compact long price action to form, and if this forms, that will change the bias from short into long. In other words, price will now likely reach this pivot high before reaching this hypothetical compact long price action's pivot low. Okay, so for the time being, if we get a pullback to 110.80 at these levels right here, with a stop loss at this pivot high right here, and its main target being right back down here. Okay, so let's go on to the euro yen. Okay, this is a weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So the last long trade that formed was right here, with the stop loss at this pivot low right here. And then there was possible compact short price action that formed right here, which shows strong short strength. So in the long term, I'm short bias right back down to the last long trade's pivot low stop loss level right here. And moreover, since I'm expecting another short entry to form along with the long-term bias, in the short term, I'm also short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, we'll stay on this weekly chart. Let me run you by the setup I've been looking at for the past couple of months. So the last long trade that formed was right here, with the stop loss at this pivot low right here. Then a weak short trade form right here. So as price pulled back, I was looking for long entries right back up to this pivot high as a target. And then another weak short trade formed. So again, as price pulled back, I was looking for long entries right up to this pivot high as a target. And then at these 2 points right here, there were 2 short trades that were actually weaker than the last long trade. However, both these short trades hit its main target at a monthly gap level that runs right through here. So as price pulled back again, I was still looking for long entries right back up to this pivot high as a target. And then as price came up to these levels right here, roughly 2 months ago, there was compact short price action that formed right here. And although this compact short price action wasn't fully confirmed, there were partial confirmations on the daily chart at this level, this level, this level, and this level right here. So for the time being, that compact short price action is about 90% confirmed. Okay, so to further confirm this compact short price action's legitimacy, the next thing I want to see is for price to fall right back down to stop out the last daily long trade stop loss level, which is at this pivot low right here. Okay, and moreover, if you recall, I took a short position at this 132.30 level right here with the stop loss at this pivot high and its main target being right back down here. Now I still have 100% of that short position in at the moment, for there's no signs of strong long price action that can push price right back up to the stop loss level right here. Alright, so let's look at the entry setups I'm looking at. Okay, again, so this weekly bias is short, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low right here before reaching this pivot high for the time being. And so one entry setup I'm looking at is on the daily chart. There was a rather strong long trade that formed right here. So at this moment in time on the daily chart, I'm looking for even stronger short trade to form. So I could take a short entry with the stop loss at that hypothetical daily short trade's pivot high, and its main target for the time being this daily long trade's pivot low stop loss level, and possibly leaving a portion in to see if it could reach this weekly bias's main target down here. Okay, and moreover, since I'm trading with this weekly short trades bias on the 4-hour and 1-hour charts, I'm always looking for legitimate and fake price patterns in which I could take for an intraday short trade along with this weekly short bias. Okay, and last but not least, I'm always looking for any compact long price action to form that shows strong long strength. In which case this does form, I'll change my weekly bias from short into long, or in other words, price will now likely reach the pivot high where the compact short price action formed, and the stop loss being at the hypothetical compact long price action's pivot low. Okay, alright, let's go on to the Nzdusd USD pair. Okay, this is the weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview. Okay, so since this move up right here, starting from this range right here, was solely based on momentum, in the long term I'm short biased right back down to this pivot low as a target. However, on the daily chart, since there was a strong long trade that formed right here, at the current moment I'm waiting for a daily short trade to form so I can measure the strength differential between these two trades and thus come to a short-term bias, and so in the medium term I'm neutral bias. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, we'll stay on this weekly chart. Let me run you by the setup I've been looking at for the past couple of months. So there was a weak short trade that formed right here, then a strong long trade formed here. And so at this point, the weekly bias was long, or in other words, price was likely to reach this pivot high right here before reaching this pivot low. So as price came up at these levels right here, I was looking for long entries on the lower time frames. However, at this point right here, there was another short trade that formed that was still weaker than the last weekly long trade. So at this point, the bias parameters changed, so price was likely to reach this pivot high right here before reaching this pivot low. And then the following week, that main target was hit at this level right here. And then the following week, since there was no more weekly bias, price just hovered right back down to stop out that long trade stop loss level right here. And furthermore, continued down on momentum. Okay, so entry setup I'm looking for at the moment is on the daily chart, so let's go over there. Okay, so on this daily chart, since there is no more weekly bias, I'm looking at the next lower time frame, which is the daily chart for me, to set up a bias. Now, roughly 2 weeks ago, there was a strong long trade that formed right here. Now, this long trade has extremely strong price elements long. Now, with that in mind, in the past 2 weeks, there were 2 daily short trades that formed here and right here. That was much weaker than this last daily long trade. And thus, both those stop loss levels were hit right away. Now there's two ways I'm looking at this for the time being. Now number one, if a short trade forms that happens to be stronger than this last daily long trade, then at that point on this daily chart I'll be short biased with a stop loss at that hypothetical short trade's pivot high and its main target at that daily long trade stop loss level right here. However, seeing that this long trade is extremely strong, I'm more inclined to be looking for a weak short trade to form and allowing price to pull back as much as possible close to that daily long trade stop loss level at this pivot low right here, so I could take a long entry with its main target at the hypothetical short trade's pivot high. Okay, and moreover, a possible scenario in which a short bias forms is as follows. So in a scenario where a short bias may form, a common setup that forms in this type of situation where there's a very strong long trade, however the market still wants to push down beyond this level right here, even if a weak short trade forms on this daily chart, thus prompting me to be long biased. On its way down, price forms compact short price action that shows strong short strength and pushes price all the way down to the daily long trade stop loss level right here. So on the short side, that is a possible scenario I'm looking at. Okay, so every so often, I'm going to go ahead and review all the pairs in succession just to get a sense of organization. Alright, so that's it for this week's weekly forecast. I hope you guys have a great week, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye.